like for us to please consider that, and I appreciate you. Thank you for letting me have this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, just we got a whole little pastor right here.
Thank you.
I got you, brother. Don't worry, I got you.
Hi, I am Susan Browder from Winston-Salem. I am a retired teacher, a grandparent, a survivor of gun violence, a gun owner, and a volunteer for Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense, a grassroots movement of Americans who support the Second Amendment while working to diminish gun violence. I have 3 points I would like for the committee to consider, and my suggestions don't necessarily involve increased funding. I, along with the majority of American teachers, school safety experts, and law enforcement, oppose arming teachers. Arming teachers ignores research that shows that the presence of a gun increases the risk significantly to all involved. I am aware, this is my second point, I am aware that many children live in homes and visit homes where guns are stored, and those guns are too often accessed and used for suicides and mass shootings. I suggest that the Be Smart program, sponsored by Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense, be presented to every PTA at no cost. Moms Demand Action volunteers across the state are trained and willing to do Be Smart presentations. That program is completely nonpartisan. It simply teaches safe gun storage and reduces the chance that teens, children, and thieves might access someone else's gun. And my third point, most importantly, I urge you to propose an Extreme Risk Protection Order law, an ERPO, also called a red flag law. We have consistently seen that in Parkland, Thousand Oaks, and other mass shootings, law enforcement, there were red flags that indicated that a person was a threat. Red flag laws allow family members and law enforcement to enlist the help of a court to temporarily remove guns before a situation escalates into tragedy. Importantly, these laws are designed to strike a balance between public safety and the rights of gun owners. Red flag laws prevent murders and also suicides. States with such laws have seen a significant decrease in firearm suicides. Since the Parkland shooting, 8 states have passed red flag laws. 5 of those bills were signed by Republican governors, so obviously this is not a partisan issue. I urge this commission to make a strong recommendation for a red flag law and to urge the legislature to pass one in the upcoming session. Before I close my remarks, I want to thank all of you very much for your work and for allowing me this opportunity to speak. I want to take this opportunity to thank the many members of law enforcement who are on this committee, and the governor and all those who have expressed support for the legislature to pass an Extreme Risk Protection Order law. Thank you for your leadership. As an educator who has seen children traumatized by school lockdowns, as a grandparent who recognizes the fear of young parents as they drop their kids off at school, as a survivor who knows that every one of us here could be the next victim of a shooting, I plead with you to make this an honest, nonpartisan, data-driven effort to keep our children safe. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I got a hand up right there. You're just in the wrong section. I'll get you.
My name is Deacon Joe Reen Jones. I live in Rowan County, and I serve statewide under call as the Coordinator for Social Justice and Advocacy Ministries of the North Carolina Synod for the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, ELCA for short. And all of that and $2 will still get me a cup of coffee at my favorite drive-thru. But I thank you so much for taking this issue seriously enough to do something and to include input from the public that you serve. Thank you so much. I rise to speak primarily pursuant to 2 social policy resolutions which have been formally adopted by our church in our church-wide assemblies in the years 2003 and 2016. They both stand. I will present those to you by email when I send comments in. Our 2003 social statement entitled Caring for Health, Our Shared Endeavor, mandates that all of our people, bishops, pastors, deacons, lay church leaders, and congregants, urge all of our governmental leaders to create and fund community approaches to health care, including robust community-based mental health care. We do also support, including school-based mental health care programs and personnel in all of our communities, in every county. Our second resolution, CA 16-02-031, entitled Gun Violence Prevention, was passed by our church-wide assembly in 2016, and it also instructs us to communicate with all of our elected leaders that we must reaffirm, we desire to reaffirm that our social policy does not reject gun ownership, nor do we condemn recreational activities associated with guns as being morally wrong. Yet we do want to express our church's urgent sense of need for the renewal or replacement of the federal assault weapons ban, which expired in 2004, including a definition of assault rifles comparable to that in the renewal that was attempted in 2013. If we can't do it on a federal basis, let's take our states' rights seriously and do it here in North Carolina.
Thank you. I kept my word. Okay. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Byron Gladden, and I represent on the Guilford County School Board for District 7. And I've heard a lot of great things. I don't want to echo that, but I want to speak to the concern about we cannot approach the issue of school violence and mass shootings without talking about race. This is not a colorblind movement. We have to speak to and address whiteness. As a state, we're willing to talk about white males when they're suffering from mental health, when they're suffering from opioid addiction. But when it comes to school shootings and the fact that white males lead it, we tend to hesitate and not say that. We tend to say we try to address it from a holistic standpoint. It's white males that's leading this. Absolutely, it is white males. One of the things should be race on there. It absolutely should be race on there. When I look in a county as Guilford County, where we have over 60% of children living in poverty, we have an achievement gap where in 2015, 50% of African American males who graduated with a 2.5 GPA or below. And you're still not leading with African American males in this county, in this state, leading with the violence conversations, the threats, as well as leading with mass shootings. It is still white males. Because when educators go into the room, when people go into the room, they look for the African American children that are in the room. I have asked several educators, when you go into a classroom, what is the first thing that you should look for? I have heard what the black children are doing. I have heard about the drawings on the walls. I have heard about what type of activities doing. I rarely get a response, instruction. And so when you talk about arming educators or even entertain that conversation, Guilford County Schools suspends 2.5 to 3 times more children of color than the rest of the state. And so we're not talking about implicit bias. We're not talking about explicit bias. We're not talking about microaggressions against children of color. I had 2 children on last night at a meeting tell me that they have been threatened with lynching at their school. And white children, particularly white males, are empowered because when you look at what is not happening on a national scale, white men are getting out of trouble more than they are getting in it. When you have a president who can brag about grabbing a female by her personal area, to grab about committing murder in the street and still winning the nomination, when you have a Supreme Court justice who gets a nomination after verified and multiple claims of sexual assault. If I'm a white male and I see white men like me getting away with so much, what barrier is there? It's not mental health. It is the privilege to know that if I'm a white male and I get in trouble, you're concerned about my future. But if I'm a black male getting in trouble, your future is already over. And we need to go ahead and sentence you, and that's why we have disproportionate sentencing outcome. We have to center this around whiteness. We have to have conversations with leaders in racial equity and inclusion and make them a part of the committee and a part of this conversation, because young white males are watching. And what they're seeing, men and women like you are getting probation for rape, they're getting house arrest for extortion and murder, and they're getting plea bargains for entering conversations with Russia. Thank you. Thank you.